Hello students, welcome to Vedantu NEET English. This is Baswaraj sir, your biology master teacher. Students, quickly let me know in the chat if I'm audible and visible to each and every one of you. Quickly let me know. Now students, today is going to be a big chapter, let me tell you honestly. Today is going to be a very big chapter, that is the plant kingdom, the entire chapter of plant kingdom. And I have decided today that it is going to be one shot. That is, I will be talking about the classification part, algae, bryophytes, where we'll be talking about liverworts and mosses, both. Then we'll be talking about pteridophytes, homospory, heterospory, and we'll be finishing the chapter with the gymnosperms. Every single line of NCERT we'll be covering in today's class. So it is your job right now. Quickly let me know in the chat if I'm audible and visible first of all, because that is very important, right? So with that being said, let's start the class, students. Let's not waste any time. Now, students, can I ask all of you a simple question? Can I ask all of you a very, very simple question? Can anyone tell me what exactly is this? What exactly is this right here structure? Because in today's class, I'm going to change the perspective how you see this chapter. For example, students, it's a very high common thing to do is that plant kingdom chapter is very boring. I will by heart the chapter and I'm done. But that is not the case. So what I'm decided to do here is, I will make sure that you are able to visualize every single concept of this chapter. For example, this right here is a Markantia and this right here is the Jamaica. This right here is the Jamaica, right here, Jamaica. Now what about this one? Can anyone tell me what exactly is this diagram? Students, this right here is also the diagram of your bryophyte, where we have this one is the gametophyte, this one is the gametophyte, and this one is the sporophyte. Now you might have seen this in textbook, but no, textbook 2D images not very clear for understanding. In my class, we'll make sure that we understand the concept and not just by heart it. Okay, so with that being said, can we start today's class, students? I don't know why I cannot see the chat here. Let me fix that for 1 second. Let me fix the chat 1 second, students. Let me fix the chat. Okay, it's fixed, I guess. Okay, done. Perfect. Exactly. Now, students, with that being said, let's start the class with the basic classification and understand this chapter of plant kingdom. Right now, students, see this. First of all, tell me who gave the 5 kingdom classification. Anyone who can tell me? Which scientist gave the 5 kingdom classification? All of us are aware from the previous chapter, the 5 kingdom classification, students. The 5 kingdom classification was given by R.H. Whittaker. All of you know that it was given by R.H. Whittaker. Yes, R.H. Whittaker gave the 5 kingdom classification. We have the kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and kingdom Animalia. 5 kingdom classification, right? 5 kingdom classification. Now, it was not always the same. Before the actual plant kingdom classification, the 5 kingdom classification, your something called as fungi. Fungi was actually included in, students. This fungi was actually included in the kingdom Plantae. That's right. Fungi was actually included in the kingdom Plantae. Now, students, what about Protista and Monera? Even the Protista and Monera were also included. In the kingdom Plantae here. Now, that was a little confusing, right? Why fungi also in the kingdom Plantae, kingdom Monera also in your kingdom Plantae, even kingdom Protista also in your kingdom Plantae. Why? Because everything which looked alike in the initial stages, for example, let's take 1 second, students. There is some problem with the live chat today. Yeah, now perfect. Now, for example, Madhumita and Yeshu looks alike. They might not be brother and sister. They might not be even close relatives. If they look alike, same team. For example, if Yeshu and Madhumita, they look alike, we'll put them in kingdom Plantae. That was the goal in the starting stages. But later on, as the advancement happened, as the science grew, we separated each one of them. For example, after some years, this particular fungi got its own kingdom. Kingdom Monera was separate, kingdom Plantae was separate. each and every one were separate later on. So initially everything was clubbed together. One big khichdi they made. We take one which looks like plant, put in plant A. King Protista, plant A. Now for example, students, all of you know, in kingdom plant A, there is that one common feature in all the plants. Can anyone tell me? Which is that one feature in the entire plant kingdom? It is common. You will tell me, sir, every single plant is able to do photosynthesis. All of you will tell me, sir, a plant is able to do photosynthesis because it has chlorophyll. Because it has chlorophyll. Now, every single plant, students, every single plant from the kingdom plant A, every single plant has chlorophyll A. Every single plant has chlorophyll A. Now, what about cyanobacteria? The blue-green algae. The blue-green algae also has the chlorophyll A. So that is the main reason in the starting stages, even the blue-green algae was in the kingdom plant A. But later on, what did we do? Later on, it was kicked outside. We removed it and we threw it into kingdom Monera. That is eubacteria. Clear? So as the science advanced, as the time went by, there was classification was done properly. Okay. So with that being said, let's read the lines of NCERT in the 1 second, students. Let me change the color. In the previous chapter, we looked at the broad classification of living organisms under the system proposed by R.H. Whitaker. Okay, all of us know that. Now, where he suggested the 5 kingdom classification: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Animalia and Plantae. In this chapter, we will deal in detail with the further classification, that is plant kingdom. Plant kingdom. Okay. Now, we must stress here that our understanding of the plant kingdom has changed over time. Fungi and the members of Monera and Protista, fungi and Monera and Protista having cell walls have now been excluded from the Plantae, though earlier classification placed them in the same kingdom. I told you, we took your Monera, we took your Protista, we took fungi, everything into plant kingdom in the starting time. Okay. Now, see here. So the cyanobacteria, also referred to as blue-green algae, all of us know blue-green algae, are not algae anymore. In this chapter, we will describe algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms under the Plantae. So if someone asks you what does actually come under your kingdom Plantae, it is none other than the algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. But angiosperms has been removed from your syllabus. So we will be focusing on algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperms. 4 different categories under the kingdom Plantae. Okay, students. Now, can we start with the first one? Before we go to the algae, in the earlier days, I told you, how was the classification done? Can anyone remind me? How was the classification done in the earlier stages? For example, I am going on a walk and suddenly I see a plant. I take the plant, I eat the plant. I take the plant and I eat the plant. If I'm able to eat the plant, I will call it edible plant. Okay. For example, if I eat a plant and I've become sick, if I eat a plant and become completely sick, that is called as your poisonous plant. Now, for example, I am sick again. I am very sick. I have high fever. Now, I have one more plant which I can take and eat, which will cure my poisonousness. Right? That is called as medicinal plant. So, based on the use, we had a broad classification: edible, poisonous, medicinal. Earlier classification based on the use and disuse. Now, students, how many of you know this classification called as herb, shrub and tree? How many of you heard about herb, shrub and tree? Somewhere in class 6 or 7 you might have heard about it. This classification right here: herb, shrub and tree. Now, students, tell me, how do you classify something into herb? How do you classify something into shrub? And how do you classify something into tree? What is the base of classification? So can I tell the main basis of classification of herb, shrub and tree is based on the morphology? Like for example, I am looking at a coriander plant. I'm like, oh, small kutti plant, nice plant. I will call it a herb. I am seeing a nice bush. I will call it a shrub. I am seeing a very tall tree. I will call it a tree. So can I tell this herb, shrub or tree, the main base of classification is mostly morphological and sexual characteristics. For example, here the entire life cycle will get over in one year, annual. For example, in the case of shrubs and trees, entire life cycle will get over in 2 years, biennial. Entire life cycle will get over in many years, perennial. So based on the size, morphology and life cycle, we classified the plants into something called as herb, shrub and tree. Yes, herb, shrub and tree. Now students, when you look at the external beauty, when you look at the external morphology, such type of classification is called as artificial system of classification. What is it called as? It is called as artificial system of classification, where you look at the external morphology. And this artificial system of classification was given by none other than the Carl Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus was a scientist who gave the artificial system of classification, where we look at what? Consider only the gross, superficial, morphological characters. For example, what is the habitat? What is the shape of the leaf? What is the color of the flower? Habit, color, number and shape of the leaf. We only look at the morphology. We only look at the morphology. For example, what is this? Carl Linnaeus uncle. This uncle also included something called as androecium structure. For example, two androecium, multiple androecium joining together, polyandrous condition. That also was considered by your Carl Linnaeus. Now students, that is artificial. Clear all of you? Artificial only looks at the external morphology. But where is the true love, students? Where is the true love? True love is on the inside. True love, you have to look at the heart of a person, right? So for that, we have something called as the natural system of classification. Natural system of classification doesn't just look at the outside beauty. It also looks at the how the plant is from the inside. For example, what is the ultrastructure? How is a plant looking from the inside? The anatomy, embryology, phytochemistry. That is, which type of primary metabolites, which type of secondary metabolites the plant is producing. So natural system of classification is looking at the true beauty, that is the inside, right? So it is called as natural system of classification. It was given by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. So Bentham and Hooker classification. Bentham and Hooker classification is called as your natural system of classification. Clear all of you? Clear? Natural system of classification was given by Bentham and Hooker. And artificial, the outside beauty, the external morphology, that is given by Carl Linnaeus. Now tell me, which is better? Tell me, which is better, students? Now I'll give you one major drawback, okay? One major drawback of artificial. For example, all of you, tell me your favorite plant. All of you tell me in the chat, what is your favorite plant? For example, let's take rose. Let's take rose plant. Nice pink color rose or red rose is there. Okay. Now, if I'm looking at the rose, I'm like, okay, nice red flower is there, leaf is there. Now, what about in the case of autumn? In the case of autumn, the leaf will fall, the flower might not be there. Now, if leaf is not there, flower is not there, can you identify rose plant now? Tell me, can you identify the rose plant anymore? Very difficult. So, when you look at the external morphology, can it change over time because of seasons? Absolutely. Right. So, the major drawback of artificial system classification, the major drawback was vegetative characters. Vegetative characters are very easily affected by the season. So it is very difficult. For example, does the anatomy change always? No. Does the embryology change? No. It doesn't change with season. So always go for what? Always go for true love. That is your natural system of classification. Clear all of you? So always go for what? Always go for natural system of classification, which is from the inside. Any doubt here, students? Any doubt here? Any one of you? So this is artificial, Carlinius, natural, Bentham and Hooker. Now see what is given here, NCERT. Okay. Now let us look at the classification within the angiosperms to understand some of the concern that influence the classification systems. The earlier system of classification used only gross, superficial, morphological. Superficial means outside. Morphological, outside. Characters such as habitat, color, number and shape of the leaf, etc. They were based mainly on the vegetative characters or on the andrecium structure given by your uncle Linnaeus. Such systems were called as artificial system of classification. They separated the closely related species since they were based on a few characters. So for example, let's take Mardia and Yeshu. Mardia and Yeshu are very close relatives. Just because they don't look alike, Mardia is in separate family, your Yeshu is in different family. Just because they don't look like each other. Just because they have only taken few characteristics. That is wrong, right? That is wrong. That also becomes a drawback here. That also becomes a drawback. Okay. They separated two closely related plants. Okay. Very important line again. Also, the artificial system gave equal weightage to vegetative and sexual characteristics. Equal weightage. Equal weightage to vegetative, equal weightage to sexual characteristics. Right? Equal weightage. Equal weightage was given. Now, this is not acceptable. Why? Because the seasonal changes. Vegetative characteristics can change over time. True. A rose plant may be very beautiful today. In autumn season, all the leaf is gone, flower is also gone. Exactly. This is not acceptable since we know that often vegetative characteristics are more easily affected by the environment. As against this, natural classification developed, which was based on natural affinities among the organisms and considered. What do they consider? They considered the internal factors, beauty on the inside, right? Beauty on the inside. What is the inside? Anatomy, embryology, ultrastructure, phytochemistry. And who gave this? Bentham and Hooker. Bentham and Hooker gave the natural system of classification. Done. First part of the chapter done. All of you. Green hearts in the chat if it's done. Yes. First part successfully done. Classification, two types, all of you know. One is called as artificial, one is called as natural. Now, there is this one more uncle is there, you remember? The evolution one, called as Darwin, right? He was like, wait a minute. How can you make a classification? How can you make a classification and not include phylogenetic relationship? Very good question, right? If you want to know how is someone related, plant A, plant B, how are they related? For to know the relation, you need to make sure you look at the phylogenetic relationship, the evolution relationship. So we got one more. We got one more classification after that. See here. We got one more classification called as phylogenetic system of classification. What do we get? We got the phylogenetic system of classification. And in phylogenetic system of classification, students, in the phylogenetic system of classification, we included the evolution relationship. For example, who is whose brother? Who is my sister? Right? Who is my uncle's daughter? You can't simply marry anyone. No. You need to know, they need to make sure if they are not your relative. Problems will come otherwise. Okay. So, they make sure they use the phylogenetic relationship. But there was one problem. One major problem. How will you know? How will you know the evolution? See, plants can't come and tell us, see, this is my sister, this is my brother, right? This is my sister, this is my brother. Plants can't talk. So how do you know that two plants are related? How do you know he is the father, he is the son? What is the mystery behind that? Obviously, one of the major factor is the fossil records, right? One of the major factor is the fossil records. If you look at the fossil and do carbon dating, we can find who is the father, who is the son. Easily done. Now, what if there is no fossil? Fossil is destroyed completely. Evidence, alas, no more evidence. No more evidence. Then what do you do now? Think, all of you, think. Now we want to do phylogenetics. We want to find evolution relationship. But there is no fossil. Now how do you find the relationship? How do you find who is the great grandfather and who is the great grandson? For that, we have some alternatives are there. There are some alternatives such as numerical taxonomy. First one, numerical taxonomy. Now what is this numerical taxonomy? In numerical taxonomy, you need to take certain characters. And assign them one number. For example, here I have one plant A. Here I have plant B. Plant A has something called as alternate phyllotaxy. Plant B also has alternate phyllotaxy. But plant C has opposite phyllotaxy. Okay, understood? Similarly, you can take hundreds of characters. And each character is given what? Equal weightage. Each character is given equal weightage. You cannot tell, sir, alternate is better, opposite. No discrimination here. No discrimination, everyone is equal. Okay. So we take characters and we assign it to a plant. For example, this also has something called as drupe fruit. Here also we have drupe fruit. Yes. And then we take all this data. And you add it to a computer. And then computer will make a table. Computer will make a chart. And then computer will only tell us who's relative. Computer will tell plant A and plant B are related. Plant A and C are also related, but plant B and C are long relatives, very far relatives. Okay, so computer will do all the work that time. That is called as numerical taxonomy. Then what is cytotaxonomy, students? See, even the plants will lie sometimes. Okay, plants will also little bit liars. They will not tell the whole truth. If you want to know the actual truth, right, you need to look at the chromosomes, because chromosomes never lie. Okay, for example, we do something called as cytotaxonomy, where we take the chromosome number, chromosome structure, chromosome behavior, and we compare, and that is when we get the reality. That is called as cytotaxonomy. The last thing which you can do, if nothing is there, you can also do chemotaxonomy. What is chemo? Chemo means chemicals. You find chemical. For example, this particular plant is producing some form of terpenoid. This plant is producing some form of toxin. This plant is producing some secondary metabolite, right? So you find the metabolites and you do matchmaking that time. So because of following cytotaxonomy, numerical taxonomy and chemotaxonomy, you will get the phylogenetic relationship. You will find the relatives. Who is whose father? Okay. All of this is happening when there are no fossil evidences. So with the help of that, we can find the phylogenetic relationship. Clear, all of you? Clear, all of you? That is what is happening. It is also given in NCERT. Read here. What is given in NCERT? See, at present, phylogenetic classification system based on the evolutionary relationship between the various organisms are acceptable. We are like, okay, fine, we will accept this. This assumes that organisms belong to the same taxa. Students, what is this taxa? Can anyone remind me? Taxa is also called as rank. It is also called as category. Yes, taxa is called as rank or category. Okay, that have a common ancestor, right? We now use this information from many other sources to help solve difficulties in classification. These become more important when there is no supporting fossil evidences. What are they? Numerical taxonomy, which is now easily carried out by using computers, is based on all observable characteristics. Number and codes are assigned to all characters. So for example, Phyllotaxy, one code. Fruit, one code. Flower, one code. Androecium, 2 androecium, one code. Androecium into one bundle, one more code. Polypetalous, one code. Gamopetalous, one code. See, you understand? Each character is given one code here. And the data are then processed. In this way, each character is given equal importance, and at the same time, hundreds, not one or two, hundreds of character can be considered. Taxonomy, cytotaxonomy, that is based on the cytological information, chromosomal information, like chromosome number, structure, behavior, and everything. Last one is chemotaxonomy, that uses the chemical constituents of the plants to resolve confusion, are also used by taxonomists these days. Second paragraph or third paragraph is done. Okay, done all of you? Understood all of you? Quickly smash that like button all of you if you understood today's following points. Okay, so that was just the introduction to the chapter. Classification. 3 types of classification. Students, tell me in the chat. The artificial system of classification was given by Carl Linnaeus, where we considered the superficial characteristics. Artificial, outside. Okay. Then we did natural system of classification given by Bentham Hooker, where we looked at the inside, anatomy, embryology, phytochemistry. Then we have the phylogenetic relationship, phylogenetic one, where we look at the fossil evidence, chemotaxonomy, cytotaxonomy. We also look at the numerical taxonomy. Done. Okay. Now, with that being done, now we will slip into something called as algae. Ready, all of you? Ready? Ready for algae? Everyone, small game. Okay. Now I want everyone to close your eyes. And try thinking of algae. And then type what comes to your mind when you think of an algae. Okay, close your eyes. Algae. Okay. I am thinking some form of a green structure, probably volvox, probably some form of chlamydomonas, or some filamentous structure. Do you get any of these following images in your mind when you think of an algae? Right? When you think of an algae? Yes. So students, this is the typical structure of an algae. A typical structure of an algae can be round, oval, filamentous, right? It can be filamentous or random weird shape or green slimy thing. Yes. Now, all of you close your eyes again. All of you, if you're watching it recorded also, close your eyes. Okay. Close your eyes and think of location of algae. Is it growing in my bathroom tiles? Is it growing near my basement? Is it growing near my chapel stand? Somewhere green color structure? Or is it growing near the footpath? Green color things in gutter, near gutter side? Correct. But where do you actually find algae then? Students, algae can be found almost everywhere. Algae can be found almost everywhere. You can find them in rock, something like this. You can find them in soil. You can find them in wood, decaying wood. You can also find them in the form of lichen. What is a lichen? What is a lichen, students? Lichen is basically fungus plus algae. You can also find them on stupid animal. This animal is growing. On this animal, algae is growing in its body. It doesn't even know. Everywhere algae is growing. And the main location of this algae, right, is moist, shady areas. Like on drug dealer it is. Okay, drug dealer. Moist, shady areas it is looking. Okay, moist, shady areas. Now students, let's see what is given in NCERT. Okay. Now all of you told me it is green in color. Why is it green in color? Because it has a pigment which gives green color, that is chlorophyll, right? So it is chlorophyll bearing. First point clear. Okay. It is very simple. Very seedha sada it has. Okay. It is thalloid. Now what is the meaning of thalloid, students? What is the meaning of thalloid? Understand. What is this thalloid, meaning of thalloid? Now, I'll ask all of you one question. Look at this algae and tell me, do you find root anywhere? No, sir. Do you find shoot anywhere? No, sir. Do you find any kind of specific leaf? Here we have leaf-like structure, but do you find any leaf-like structure here? No. So we cannot find leaf. You cannot find shoot. You cannot find root. Such a structure such a structure where you cannot differentiate which is root, which is shoot, which is leaf. Such structure is called as thalloid structure. Clear, all of you? Clear? So thalloid structure is a structure which does not have, there is no proper differentiation between root, shoot and leaf. Done, that's all. That is called as a thalloid structure. Thalloid. It is autotrophic mode of nutrition. It can make its own food. Okay. Largely aquatic. So main habitat, the major habitat is water. Apart from water, these are the different locations you will find them. So majority of algae is found in aquatic habitat, but other than that you can find them rock, soil, wood, sloth bear or lichen. Okay. See here. Mostly it is aquatic, both fresh water and marine, that is salty water. They occur in a variety of other habitats such as moist stones, soil, wood. Some of them are also occur in association with fungi, lichens and animals such as your sloth bear. Sloth bear. Clear, all of you? Clear? Yes. Now, the form and size of algae is highly variable. See here. Weird algae, there is no proper shape. There is no proper size. Can you see? Here it is in one apartment, is there in apartment here. Colonial, filamentous, one weird leaf-like structure. This is actually alva. See, ranging from colonial. What is colonial? All the algae is staying in an apartment. Example is Volvox in a colony. Okay. Filamentous, long thread-like structure. Example is Eulothrix and Spirogyra. Eulothrix and Spirogyra. Diagram I'll show you. Don't worry. Diagram I'll show you. Eulothrix and Spirogyra is filamentous. Filamentous means thread-like structure. Okay. Now, a few of the marine forms such as kelps, very important. Giant kelps. Now, what is this kelp? This giant kelp is almost 50 to 60 meters tall. Very tall tree. It is almost like a tree. How many of you have seen Avatar movie? Avatar Way of Water. In Avatar Way of Water, in underwater, did you see this long tree-like structure? That is your brown algae. That is your brown algae. Now, I will show you one more diagram. See this. You will be like, wow, sir, algae is so beautiful. I will keep it in my house. See this. You will be like, wow, sir, such a beautiful algae. All of you see this. See this. This is your ectocarpus, which is a brown algae. Look at it. Ectocarpus brown algae. Look at this. Polysiphonia. It's a red algae. Beautiful red algae. Can you see? Beautiful red algae. Can you see this? Gracilaria. Red algae. Gelidium. Red algae. Right? Red algae. So algae, see this is fucus. Brown algae. Sargassum, which is floating in water. Brown algae. Right? So algae can look very weird and very different based on the habitat. Okay. So they do not have any fixed shape. They do not have any fixed shape. Okay. So kelps are like giant, kelps are like, giant, tall plants. Okay. For massive plants, bodies, almost like 100-meter tall. Okay. Now students, now that is well and done. All of us know what does algae look like. All of us know how does the algae form, the structure, where do we find them? Where do you find them? Now, what about reproduction? This particular small algae, it also reproduces. But the question is how? What is the mode of reproduction here? What is the mode of reproduction? My favorite algae is actually Polysiphonia only. And even Gracilaria. I know why Gracilaria. Gracilaria, when it is floating in water, it has something called as air bladder. You can pinch the air bladder and it will blast. Like you can press it. It's like a playful thing. Like all of you have played with that pop, which they use in wrapping things. Gracilaria and Sargassum. Sargassum has a small air bladder. You can pinch it and it's very fun to play with, basically. Try catching all of this one day. Okay. So what about reproduction? What about reproduction? Okay. Reproduction, here it is actually two types. Both. It has something called as your asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Both are present. Okay. Now, Exactly. Then you will understand what is the meaning of asexual reproduction. For example, all of you know binary fission. Yes, binary fission. And I don't know why. Every single time I think of binary fission, this stupid amoeba only comes to my mind. I don't know why. Amoeba only comes to my mind. But in the case of your plant kingdom, binary fission is done by your Chlamydomonas. It is done by Chlamydomonas. Okay, done. They also do fragmentation. What is fragmentation? In fragmentation, we have one large fragment. It will divide into half, one fragment. Then eventually each fragment will grow into an adult. Each fragment will grow into adult. This is mostly seen in the case of your filamentous algae, Urothrix and Spirogyra. Okay, Spirogyra mainly. Okay, fragmentation. Now, after that, some of the algae can also produce spores. For example, zoospores are found. Zoospores are found in the case of your Chlamydomonas. Your stupid Chlamydomonas can also make spores. Can you see? It can make something called as zoosporangium, and from the zoosporangium we can have the motile spores. Motile spores are coming out of the zoosporangium. Okay. So under asexual reproduction, we have binary fission, fragmentation, spore formation. Three of them clear, all of you? Clear? Three of them. Now, what about sexual reproduction? Do they also show sexual reproduction? The answer is yes. They also show sexual reproduction. But it is a little complex it is. What is the meaning of complex here? There are actually three different types of sexual reproduction here. For example, I'll show you. For example, sometimes the two gametes are same. Male gamete, female gamete, size is same to same. You cannot tell difference. Such type of fusion where the two gametes are same to same, that is called as isogamy. Okay, isogamy. What if the two gametes are different? One gamete is very large, one more gamete is very small, that is called as anisogamy. The third one is called as oogamy. Oogamy is similar to humans itself. Here we have a small motile male gamete, and we have a large non-motile female gamete, just like egg and sperm, similar to egg and sperm, right? So there are three types of sexual reproduction here. The first one is called as isogamy, second one is called as anisogamy. An means what? Different type of gametes, and the third one is called as oogamy. Clear, all of you? Clear? Now see this. Example is more important. See this. We learnt about vegetative, fragmentation, asexual, mostly zoospore formation, sexual. Sexual is what is happening? Fusion of gametes is happening. Fusion of gametes. Here we have three types I told you. First one is called as isogamy, aniso-oogamy. Isogamy what? Fusion of gametes. Fusion of gametes are similar. Size is similar. Now here, there are two different examples. Always ask me examination. Two different examples. I want everyone to focus now. Focus. Gametes can be motile. If these two gametes are motile, example is Ulothrix. Now under isogamy, if the two gametes are non-motile, then example is Spirogyra. Clear? Is that point clear to all of you? So I'll repeat again. Under isogamy, when the two gametes are similar in size, if the two gametes are motile, if they are able to swim, example is Ulothrix, motile. If the two gametes are non-motile, but the shape is same, then it is called, example is Spirogyra. Imprint this in your brain today only. Learn this 100 times, learn it. If you cannot learn it, I will give you these notes today. Students, trust me, this weekend all the notes will be with you. Not a joke, I will tell you. Okay, all the notes will be given to you on Telegram channel this weekend. Telegram channel, all of you are aware, right? Baswaraj sir, biology. On this Telegram channel, all the notes will be given. Download these notes, learn from these notes, because I have made it properly. I have made the notes for all of you. Okay. Now, under anisogamy, we have Eudorina. Fusion of gametes are dissimilar. Fusing gametes are dissimilar in shape. Okay. Now, under oogamy. Very important again. What is this? Female gamete is very large and non-motile. The male gamete is motile and small. See, this is motile and small, kuti and small. This one is very large and non-motile. Example is volvox and fucus. Volvox and fucus. Okay, and fucus. Clear? Clear all of you? So all of you, I want everyone to type this answer in the chat. I'll ask you a question now. Tell me the example of oogamy. Go. Example of oogamy. Now students, let's read the NCERT. Okay. The algae reproduces by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. Vegetative method is usually the fragmentation we learned here. Each fragment develops into a thallus. All of you know what is a thallus? The main plant body. Asexual reproduction is by formation of different types of spores, the most common being zoospores. And remember students, zoospores means motile spores. Example, Chlamydomonas. Zoospores are motile spores. Then what do you call as non-motile spores? Non-motile spores are called as aplanospores. Okay, extra information here and there. Okay, now understand all of you. They have flagellated, motile and germinate, giving rise to the new plant body. Sexual reproduction takes place through fusion of two gametes. These gametes can be flagellated. Flagellated means what? Motile and similar in size. Example is Eulothrix. Isogamy, motile, Eulothrix. Or they can be non-flagellated, non-motile and also isogamy, that is similar in size. Example is Spirogyra. Every line I'm telling you students, every line of NCERT we're covering. Okay. Now such reproduction is called as what? Where two gametes are similar in size. Isogamy. Isogamous. Now fusion of two gametes dissimilar in size, that is called as anisogamy. Example is Eudorina. Last one is oogamy, where the male is small and motile. The female is large and non-motile. Example is volvox and fucus. All of you tell me, is NCERT easy or not? Tell me all of you, is NCERT easy or not? You'll be like, very easy sir. Is plant kingdom easy? Yes, plant kingdom is very easy. Okay. Now, this is your colonial algae, filamentous algae, Eulothrix. We will come back to this later on. I haven't told you all this still. This is basically brown algae, laminarin, fucus, dictyota. You need to learn all this later on, I'll tell you. Red algae, porphyra, polysiphonia. Now students, now. This is economic importance, we'll come back to this later on. Students. Now in your NCERT, there are 3 types of classification of algae. Lucky you are, because there are many. All of you are very lucky because there are many classifications, many different are there. But in your NCERT, only 3 is given. So you have to study only 3. Very simple, very easy. First one is called as Chlorophyceae, green algae. Then we have brown algae, Phaeophyceae, called as brown algae. Then we have the beautiful, vibrant red color called as Rhodophyceae, the red algae. Clear? So Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae. Now, what is the color? The color here is because of the pigment, and that is the main mode of classification. The main mode of classification between the algae is the color. Discrimination, no? Suddenly. Okay, students. For example, I'll tell you the color later on. But which is that one pigment which is completely same everywhere? Chlorophyll A is the common to all 3 groups. Chlorophyll A is always common. Now, students. Now we will go to our next topic called as cell wall. I'll make you write some notes here and there. Write down these notes and understand, and then we will read the lines of NCERT. Deal? Deal all of you? Can we start now? Tell me. Deal? Let's start with the cell wall now. Okay. For example, here we have the outer cell wall. Inside what do we have, students? Inside we have the plasma membrane on the inside. Okay. Done. This is the cell wall. This is the plasma membrane. This is the plasma membrane. Okay. Now students, let's zoom on this one. Let's zoom on the cell wall. Let's zoom on the cell wall. When you zoom the cell wall, I'll draw a cell wall here. For example, this is the cell wall right here. Cell wall. Cell wall. Now students, on top of the cell wall, there is some form of chemical depositions. On top of the cell wall, there is some form of chemical depositions on the cell wall. And this chemical deposition, students, this chemical deposition is called as hydrocolloidal substance. Hydrocolloidal substance. Hydrocolloidal substance. Listen to this. What is the meaning of this hydrocolloidal substance, and why does the plants have it? Now, students, tell me. In winter season, do you apply moisturizer? Now, don't tell me in the chat, no sir, I don't use moisturizer, I use coconut oil, but anything. Some of you use moisturizer. Why? To protect against winter. Similarly, your algae is also applying moisturizer everywhere. Now, you might ask me, sir, why does the algae need a moisturizer? Understand. See, I told you, most of the aquatic habitat, most of the algae is an aquatic habitat, all of you know, marine and freshwater. When it is in marine and freshwater, do we have something called as high tide and low tide? Because of the Earth's gravity and Moon's gravity, we have something called as high tide and low tides. Whenever there is something called as low tide, the algae which is in aquatic condition, sometimes it gets exposed. Sometimes it gets completely exposed to sunlight. At that time, algae is very smart. Algae has something called as hydrocolloidal substance. This hydrocolloidal substance is like moisturizer and it will hold all the water. Now you tell me, if algae is able to hold all the water because of the hydrocolloidal substance, will it get dehydrated? Now tell me. Obviously not. So because of this hydrocolloidal substance, our algae can stay hydrated even in the low tide condition. Smart, no? Algae is smart, no? Obviously algae is smart. Okay. Now students, this hydrocolloidal substance and the composition of cell wall can completely vary in the case of your red algae, brown algae and green algae. For example, understand. In the case of your green algae, in the case of your brown algae, and in the case of your red algae, the cell wall compositions completely varies. For example, understand students. Here in all the three places we have cellulose. First of all, we have cellulose in all three. Cellulose is common. Cellulose is common here. Okay, in all three. Now, in the case of green algae, apart from cellulose, there is also something called as pectin. Done. In the case of your brown algae, along with cellulose, there is something called as algin or alginic acid. Now, third one. In the case of your red algae, along with cellulose, there is something called as carrageen. Carrageen plus certain polysulfated esters. Polysulfated esters are also there. Okay, and also you can find also pectin also in some cases. Pectin also in some cases. Clear, all of you? Clear? So in the case of cell wall, we have something called as hydrocolloidal substance, which is the moisturizer. Green algae has cellulose plus pectin, brown algae has cellulose plus algin, and red algae has something called as cellulose plus carrageen plus polysulfated esters and pectin in the case of your red algae. That is the cell wall composition in the case of three different algae given in your NCERT in your syllabus. Clear, all of you? Clear? Clear or not? Tell me in the chat, students, all of you. I'll add a poll, one second, students. Done. Okay. That was cellulose. Now, what about flagella? What about flagella, students? What about flagella? Okay, what about flagella? Understand. Okay. I was magic, I had disappeared. Okay. Now, this is a typical flagella, right? This is a typical flagella. This is the gamete. One flagella will be there. Flagella will be there. And what is the function of flagella, students? What is the function of flagella? Flagella will help in motility. Motility is the main function of flagella. Okay, main function of flagella. Now, students, this flagella also completely varies in the case of red, green, and brown algae. For example, students, under your green algae, understand, friends, under green algae, how it looks like. In your green algae, under your green algae, students, under your green algae, this is the flagella. I'll draw the diagram, understand. Here we have the simple green algae, Chlamydomonas, and all the flagella will be present on the apex. Can you see? We have something called as apical. Can you see, students? Can you see here? It's equal. Both are equal. Yes. It is equal. And it is present at apical part. Apical. For example, this is the apical, students. Here, from here, flagella will come from here. That is called as apical, right? Apical, and it is all usually around 2 to 8 in the case of your green algae. Now, what about your brown algae? What about in the case of brown algae? In the case of your brown algae, again it varies. For example, this is your brown algae gamete. Okay, pear shaped, or it can also look something like this. Okay. Now here, flagella will be on the lateral side, and it is. Can you see? Tell me, is it equal or unequal now? Friends, tell me, it is equal or unequal? See here. Here it is, usually it is 2 unequal and lateral in origin. Okay, and this is called as pear shaped, also called as pyriform. The other name is called as what? Pyriform. Okay. Now, what about red algae, students? What about in the case of red algae? How is the gametes? How is the flagella? In the case of red algae, there is absolutely no flagella whatsoever. In the case of red algae, there is no flagella whatsoever in the case of red algae. Clear, all of you? So flagella use motility. In the case of green algae, it is equal, apical 2 to 8. Brown algae, it is 2, unequal and lateral. Red algae, no flagella at all. No motility only. Okay? No flagella at all. What about the pigment, students? This was the main criteria. Pigment was the main criteria, students. Remember, we classified the entire algae. Based on pigments. For example, in the case of green algae, in the case of your green algae, brown algae, and red algae, pigment is going to vary little. For example, students, I told you there is one chlorophyll which is common in all of the plants belong to plant kingdom. All of you remember? That is called as your chlorophyll A. All of you remember? So chlorophyll A is going to be common. Chlorophyll A is going to be common everywhere. Chlorophyll A. Chlorophyll A is going to be common. Now I'll tell you a small trick. Tell me, all of you tell me ABCD. Chlorophyll A is going to be common. Now here we will have chlorophyll B, A, B, C and D. So here we have chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B in green algae. Brown algae we have chlorophyll A and C, and in red algae we have chlorophyll A and D. And apart from that we also have your fucoxanthin here. Fucoxanthin and carotenoids. Carotenoids. Okay, we also have carotenoids there. Okay, now what about in the red algae? In red algae, there is that one pigment which is actually giving the red color, the bright red color. Did you see that? That pigment is called as your phycoerythrin. It is called as what? Phycoerythrin. Phycoerythrin is the red pigment which is giving the red algae. Pigment is done. So green algae chlorophyll A and B, brown algae chlorophyll A, C, fucoxanthin and carotenoids, red algae chlorophyll A, D and phycoerythrin. Clear all of you? Now storage. Understand storage. In the case of storage also it varies. Some will store in a weird form, something called as starch, oil droplets. Some will store something called as mannitol, laminarin. Some of the algae will store something called as Floridian starch. So every single algae, the storage varies completely now. And the question, student, the question will be asked directly from here. Red algae has which type of storage? Your brown algae has which type of storage? And then they'll ask you, green algae has which type of storage? Direct question. Write down. In the case of green algae, your brown algae and red algae. Completely varies. Okay. For example, students, in the case of your green algae, all the food is stored in the form of starch. All of you know starch. Starch and oil droplets. Okay, oil droplets. And do you want to know where it's stored as? There is storage of some protein also here. And all of this is so cleverly stored in a small structure called as pyrenoid. I'll show you. See this. In green algae, you will see this. Can you see this? In a green algae, there are the small drop-like structures as pyrenoids, and which stores the oil droplets. Pyrenoids. Can you hear? One more diagram is not there, huh? It's not there. Okay. That is called as pyrenoids. They're called as pyrenoids. Okay, pyrenoids. Now understand, all of you understand. In the case of brown algae, there is something called as mannitol and laminarin. There is something called as mannitol and laminarin, which help in storage. Mannitol and laminarin. In red algae, question is very simple. Question will be like, see, Floridian starch is very easy. Floridian starch will tell me, but they will ask you question as the Floridian starch is stored in the red algae. Floridian starch is stored in the red algae, but the Floridian starch resembles some other structure. The Floridian starch resembles the structure of dash and dash. That is the question. The Floridian starch resembles dash and dash. That is the simple question they'll ask you. And if you know basic chemistry, there is something called as alpha 1,6 linkage and alpha 1,4 linkage. And this alpha 1,4 linkage is present in the case of amylose. And this alpha 1,6 linkage is present in the case of your amylopectin and also glycogen. So this particular Floridian starch resembles the amylopectin and glycogen. This is your biochemistry. Chemistry, no? Chemistry, Diksha ma'am will teach you. Understood, all of you? Understood? Oh, nice notes, no students? Do you want these notes? Do you want these notes or not? Nice notes we're making, students. Nice notes we're making. See, we learned about cell wall first of all. Green algae, cellulose plus pectin. Clear? Brown algae, cellulose plus algin. Red algae, cellulose plus carrageen plus foil sulfate esters plus pectin. Hydrocolloidal substances. Then we learned about flagella. Green algae equal apical 2 to 8. Brown algae pear-shaped gametes with 2 unequal and lateral. Red algae completely magically absent. Pigment chlorophyll A, B. Brown algae chlorophyll A, C, fucoxanthin and carotenoids. Red algae chlorophyll A, D and phycoerythrin. Then students, in your storage, oh here I'll tell you one more point, students. Listen to this point. One important point will come up here. For your fucoxanthin, understand. I told you the brown algae, the pigment present is fucoxanthin. Okay. Understand this point very carefully. You might get a question from here. In the case of brown algae, the concentration of fucoxanthin plays a major role. If the fucoxanthin is present in very less quantity, then the algae will look something called as olive green color, very less quantity. If the fucoxanthin is present in higher quantity or higher levels, then it will look as brown algae. So the levels or the concentration of fucoxanthin plays a major role here. Clear? I hope that point is clear to all of you. Based on the concentration of fucoxanthin. Okay? Let's read the green algae now. Can we start, students? Can we start with your green algae? Can we start? Yes, sir. The members of Chlorophyceae are commonly called as green algae. Okay. The plant body may be unicellular, chlamydomonas, all of you know, colonial, volvox, filamentous, eulothrix and spirogyra. They are usually grass green due to the dominance of pigment chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. We learned that. Done. The pigment are localized in a definite chloroplast. So all the pigment, students, all the pigments are found where? All the pigments are found in the, is the sound not visible? Sound check. Is the sound proper? I hope the sound is proper, right? Is the sound proper? Sound check. Okay, clear only. Now students, all the chlorophyll is present in the chloroplast. But students, I'll give you a simple experiment. Imagine. I am taking different types of green algae. This was my exam. It was given in my exam also. Okay, this is what I got in my exam. Okay, MSc my first semester, my final examination, practical exam. This is what happened to me. Okay, my sir gave me, my father, like the father sir was there, he gave me a mixture of algae. I am thinking mixture algae, but I got mixture of algae. Okay, listen very carefully. The sir mixed, he took some form of green algae, he took multiple types of green algae, cladophora, pithophora. Okay, there are many. I studied like around 30-40 green algae. Okay, he took all the different green algae and he kept it in one plate and he gave me the plate. Then the sir asked me to separate each algae and identify each algae. Now think how will you do it? My sir gave me a mixture of the green algae, complete, many different types of green algae. It had volvox, eudorina, pandorina, cladophora, pithophora, you know, name it, eulothrix, many different types of green algae, nice mixture, and gave me. It's like, enjoy. And I'm sitting there, all the green algae. So how did I smartly differentiate the algae, friends? Guess. So it was taught to us that if you want to classify the green algae further, the best way to identify the green algae, different types of green algae, is by looking at the chloroplast structure. Because many different types of green algae, the chloroplast structure will change. It will vary. For example, students, in some green algae, the chloroplast is cup-shaped. I will call it Chlamydomonas. A chloroplast is discoid. A chloroplast is C-shaped. I will call it one algae, Eudorina, not Eudorina. I will call it Eurothrix. For example, the chloroplast is ribbed completely. The chloroplast is completely reticulate or spiral in the case of Spirogyra. The chloroplast is stellate, means star-shaped chloroplast. Can you see? Star-shaped chloroplast. So how would I do? I took out the forceps, put it under microscope and classified each and every algae based on the chloroplast structure. Understood all of you? Understood? So this is the secret here. It is given in your NCERT also. Look at here. It is given in your NCERT also here. Can you see? The chloroplast may be discoid, plate-like, reticulate, cup-shaped, spiral or ribbon-shaped in different species. Every single species has a different types of chloroplast. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, most of the members have one or more storage bodies called as pyrenoids located in the chloroplast. See, this is the pyrenoids. Pyrenoids are there. Okay. Pyrenoids contains protein, I told you. It contains protein besides starch. Some algae may store in the form of oil droplet also. So, starch, oil droplets, protein storage. Green algae usually have a rigid cell wall made up of, very important again, very important, inner layer of cellulose. Inner layer is cellulose. See here, students. In the case of your green algae, inner layer, students, inner layer is made up of cellulose. Outer layer is made up of pectose or pectin. Outer layer is made up of pectose or pectin. Okay. See here, it's given here also. Inner layer made of cellulose and outer layer made up of pectose. Vegetative reproduction usually takes place by fragmentation or by formation of different types of spore. Asexual reproduction is by zoospores produced in the zoosporangia, Chlamydomonas. The sexual reproduction shows considerable variation in the type and formation of sex cells, and it may be isogamous, anisogamous, oogamous. All three types are present here. Some commonly found green algae is Chlamydomonas, Volvox, Eurothrix, Spirogyra and Chara. Remember the examples. Chlamydomonas, here we have your Chara, this is your Chara, green algae. Cladophora, can you see? Reticulate chloroplast in Cladophora. This is a complete summary of what we just learned. Habitat, cell wall, pigment, food storage, members, reproduction, fragmentation, zoospore, isogamous, anisogamous, oogamous. This is what you need to revise every single time. This is what you need to revise in your before you go to examination or before you want to revise plant kingdom. Open my notes, open this slide and revise green algae. Everything is set in your mind now. Beautiful, right? Did all of you understand green algae or any doubt in green algae? Every single line of NCERT has been taught and covered. This is the entire Chlorophyceae or green algae. Done and dusted. Now students, understand Phaeophyceae. Now. Phaeophyceae. All of you know it is called as brown algae. Yes, brown algae. And are primarily found in the marine habitats. So location is what? Location is mostly marine habitat. They show great variation in size and form. They range from simple branched, filamentous, ectocarpus, simple branched ectocarpus. This is ectocarpus right here. Simple and branched ectocarpus to profusely branched form as represented by giant kelps. I told you, no, they are like large trees, very large trees. They look like tree, but they're not tree. Okay. Which may reach height up to 100 meters. See, I told you, 100 meters, large giant kelps. So small profusely branched ectocarpus to large giant kelps. The size variation is maximum here. They possess chlorophyll A, C, carotenoids and xanthophyll. Xanthophyll is a fucoxanthin here. They vary in color from olive green to shades of brown. Based on what? Based on the amount of xanthophyll pigment, that is fucoxanthin, is present in them. Done. The food storage is complex carbohydrate like a laminarin and mannitol. Did that. The vegetative cells have cellulosic cell wall, usually covered on the outside by a gelatinous coating of algin. Algin. You do that here. Algin. On the outside, inside cellulose. Algin. Okay, algin. The protoplast contains, in additional to plastids, a centrally located vacuole and nucleus is also present here. The plant body, students, the plant body. Understand the plant body. The plant body has a leaf-like structure, large leaf-like structure, and a stem-like structure and a root-like structure. It has a leaf-like structure, stem-like structure, and root-like structure. The large root-like structure here is called as your holdfast. This is called as what? Holdfast. Holdfast. Can you see this stem-like structure? It is called as stipe. And this leaf-like structure is called as frond. Called as frond. Okay? Frond. The plant body is usually attached to substratum by the holdfast and has a stalk called as stipe. Leaf-like structure, frond, for photosynthesis. Vegetative reproduction takes place by fragmentation. Asexual reproduction in the form of, the most brown algae is by flagellated zoospores, and then that are pear-shaped and have two unequal laterally attached flagella. Did we learn that here for gametes? For gametes we learned here, right? In the case of brown algae, pear-shaped, two unequal lateral flagella. Two unequal lateral flagella for your brown algae. Brown algae, beautiful. Done. That are pear-shaped, two lateral unequal lateral branches. Okay, flagella. Sexual reproduction may be isogamous, anisogamous, oogamous. Union of gametes may take place in water or within the oogonium. Okay, that is oogonium species. The gametes are pyriform, pear-shaped, and bear two laterally attached flagella. Okay. The common forms are ectocarpus, dictyota, laminaria, sargassum, and fucus. Examples are very important. Ectocarpus, dictyota, laminarin, sargassum. Ectocarpus, dictyota. This is how dictyota looks like. Dictyota. Sargassum. Free floating in water. Sargassum. Okay, sargassum. Okay. And fucus. See? Fucus. And this is the complete summary of your brown algae. It is found in marine. I told you mostly marine. Cellulosic and algin on the outside. Chlorophyll A, C, carotenoids, xanthophyll, that is fucoxanthin. Food storage material is mannitol and laminarin. Member is ectocarpus, laminarin, fucus, sargassum, and dictyota. Reproduction is fragmentation, vegetative. Asexual by zoospore formation. Sexual is by all three. That is iso, aniso, aniso, as well as oogamy. Done. Any doubt in brown algae, students? Any doubt in brown algae? Any doubt in your brown algae, students? And all of you, I suggest, highly suggest, download these notes. You will have a summary. You will have NCERT lines. You will have NCERT lines. You will also have beautiful diagrams. And where do you get the notes? Notes will be given to you on the Telegram channel by the weekend. That is Basuvraj Sir Biology Telegram. Here I will give you the notes. Okay. So ectyota, dictyota, ectocarpus, dictyota, laminaria, sargassum, and fucus. Examples very important, all of you. Right. Now again red algae, red algae. Red algae is called as what? Rhodophyceae, red algae. Because of the presence of red pigment, phycoerythrin. Okay. Majority of the red algae are marine and great concentration are found in the warmer areas. They occur both in well-lit regions close to the surface of the water and also in the great depths. Great depths. So great depths also near the warmer regions. Okay. The red thalli of the most red algae are multicellular. Most of them have complex body organization. The food is stored in the form of Floridian starch. Friends, remember, I told you that time. Floridian starch is very similar to which structure? Everyone in the chat, tell me. Everyone. The Floridian starch is very similar to amylopectin and glycogen. Given your here. Very similar to amylopectin and glycogen in structure. Very important line of NCERT. The red algae usually reproduces vegetatively by fragmentation. They reproduce asexually by non-motile spores. Now you might ask me, sir, why the non-motile spores? Why? Because the flagella is absent here. Because the flagella is absent here. And sexually by also non-motile gametes. Why non-motile gametes? Because flagella is absent here. Right? Sexual reproduction is oogamous accompanied by complex post-fertilization development. The common members are Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria and Gelidium. Gracilaria and Gelidium are used in your agar-agar gel making. Okay. See here. Polysiphonia, the most beautiful. See, so beautiful it looks like. Gracilaria, Gelidium. And this is the complete summary again. Complete summary. Marine, great concentration found in the warmer areas and also depths. Cellulose, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll D, phycoerythrin, Floridian starch, which is similar to amylopectin and glycogen. Polysiphonia, Gracilaria, Gelidium, Porphyra. Vegetative fragmentation, asexual non-motile spores, sexual non-motile gametes, but only and only oogamy. That is very important. In the case of your sexual reproduction, Rhodophyceae, you do not see usually iso and aniso. Iso and aniso is usually absent here. Clear all of you? Clear? Iso and aniso are usually absent here. Clear, students? Now, this is what is given here. Now I'll give you 1 minute. Then we'll play a game, small game. I want you to see this image. All of you need to see this image, and then I'll ask you some questions. Your time starts now. All of you look at the following chart. Then I will ask you exactly chlorophyll food material. Then I'll ask you Rhodophyceae cell wall, or I can ask you the pigment in Chlorophyceae. That game we will tell. Okay? Can we start? The time starts now. Go. Quickly, I'll give you 1 minute. Exactly 1 minute. Done? Done, 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 done. Done. Okay. I'll ask you, all of you. Ready? Now, tell me the reserved food material in the case of Rhodophyceae. Tell me the reserved food material in the case of Rhodophyceae. Go. Reserved food material in the case of Rhodophyceae. Quickly. Done? Exactly. It is your Rhodophyceae is Floridian starch. Floridian starch is the reserved food material. Floridian starch. Hello Ravindrani, welcome back. Now, next one more question. Tell me the pigment in the case of Phaeophyceae. What is the pigment in the case of Phaeophyceae? Phaeophyceae, the pigment. Phaeophyceae, the pigment. All of you. Pigment of Phaeophyceae. That is your pigment is Phaeophyceae, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll C, and fucoxanthin. Fucoxanthin. Beautiful. Last question. Ready? Last question. One more question for all of you. One more question for all of you. Okay. Which type of flagella? Which type of flagella do you find in the case of Rhodophyceae? In the case of Rhodophyceae, which type of flagella do you find in the case of Rhodophyceae? Go. Pigment in the case of Rhodophyceae. You'll be like, sir, equal, unequal, too many. Quickly, quickly. In Rhodophyceae, which type of pigment do you get? Pigment, not pigment, sorry, flagella. Flagella in the case of Rhodophyceae. Flagella in the case of Rhodophyceae, absent. Exactly. Exactly. It is completely absent. Okay. Now we will go to something called as the economic importance. Like, what can we use as the, what is the use of this algae? Can we eat the algae? Yes, we can eat the algae. We can eat the algae. Can we use it for medicinal purposes? Some case, yes, we can use for medicinal purpose. But can we use it in microbiology? Yes. See, Gracilaria and Gelidium is used in agar-agar for microbial growth. Sargassum, Laminarium, Porphyra are used as food. Chlorella is a unicellular algae which is used as protein supplement in space usage. Right? Marine algae can also be, we can extract the hydrocolloidal substances for our own use. There are multiple uses. But let me tell you students, the main use I'll tell you. The food chain and the CO2 release. That is the main thing. Their algae are useful to man in variety of ways. At least half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by your algae. So algae is doing what? Algae is fixing the CO2 and it is releasing the oxygen. Fixing of CO2. Being photosynthetic, they increase the level of dissolved oxygen in the immediate environment. So they increase the oxygen level in the environment, nearby environment. They are of paramount importance in primary production of energy-rich compounds which form the basis of food cycle in all aquatic habitats. Because students, in aquatic habitats, the food has to come from somewhere, and it is the green algae which is or the algae which is producing the food in the primary source of food in the case of food chain in aquatic habitat. Okay. Now, all of you know remaining things you know. Remaining things which we already discussed. Gracilaria and Gelidium are used to grow microbes, prepare ice cream and jellies, that is agar-agar. Right? Agar is extracted. Chlorophyceae, Rhodophyceae and Phaeophyceae later on. Chlorella, a unicellular algae rich in protein used for food supplement by the space travelers. Okay. So with that, your algae is done, not yet. Okay. Now students, can we do the life cycle now? Can we do the life cycle? Now, can we do the life cycle now students? Life cycle of the entire algae. What is happening in each stage of the algae? Can we start? Each stage of algae. I want everyone to, I'll give you the notes. Notes will be given to you. But this part I want you to write with me so you can have a better clarity and no confusion. Okay, so students, this is the algae right here. This is the main plant body of the algae. This is the main plant body of the algae. Main plant body. Main plant body of the algae. Okay, main plant body of the algae. Now this main plant body of the algae is called as your gametophyte. It is called as gametophyte. Gametophyte. And gametophyte, remember students, I will tell you now for the first time, gametophyte is always and always haploid in nature. It is haploid in nature. Haploid in nature. So the main plant body in the case of your algae is called as a gametophyte, and it is haploid in nature. It is haploid in nature. Now, which color is this, students? Which color is this? This is right here is green color. So tell me, students, can it do photosynthesis if it is green color? Tell me, students. Tell me, students, if it is in green in color, can it do photosynthesis? Yes or no? Simple. So if it is green in color, yes sir, it can do photosynthesis. Can I call it as independent now? Can I also call it as independent existence? Independent existence. Independent in nature. Independent nature. Okay. Now students, understand, a gametophyte will always produce gametes. A sporophyte will always produce spores. Gametophyte will produce gametes. Sporophyte will produce spores. Now you tell me, this right here is a gametophyte. What will it produce? Gametophyte will always produce what? Gametophyte will always produce the gametes. Gametes. And these gametes are also haploid in nature. Haploid. Haploid in nature. That is N. Now, from N to N, what should be the cell division? Should it be mitosis or should it be meiosis? Everyone in the chat quickly. N to N, no change in ploidy. So can I write it as mitosis right here? Mitosis. Mitosis right here. Okay. Now here we have spores. These are basically the spores right here. We have the gametes. We have the gametes right here. Now these gametes will undergo what? These gametes will undergo fertilization. These gametes will undergo something called as fertilization. Fertilization. If the gametes undergo fertilization, will they result in a diploid structure? Will they result in a diploid structure called as your zygote? It is called as zygote right here. Zygote. Zygote. And this zygote is always diploid in nature. Yes, it is diploid in nature. Now students, remember, now this zygote doesn't directly undergo meiosis or mitosis. This zygote right here, students, this zygote right here directly forms a multicellular structure as a result of mitosis. As a result of mitosis, it forms a multicellular structure. As a result of mitosis, this zygote forms a structure called as sporophyte. Sporophyte. This is sporophyte right here. Sporophyte. Now tell me, students, what is the ploidy of the sporophyte? See, this is diploid. Mitosis. Will there be change in ploidy? Obviously not, sir. So can I tell even the sporophyte is going to be diploid in nature? Yes. Sporophyte is going to be diploid in nature. Now students, tell me, gametophyte produces gametes. Gametophyte produces gametes. So sporophyte should produce what? A sporophyte should produce spores. A sporophyte should produce spores. So here we have spore formation. We have the spore formation. We have the spores. We have the spore formation. Spores. Now, here spore formation is as a result of meiosis. Is a result of meiosis. As a result of meiosis. Now tell me, will there be change in ploidy right now? Will the spores be haploid or diploid? If there is meiosis, there is reduction division. So can I tell these spores right here are right now haploid in nature? They're haploid in nature. And these spores eventually develop and they give rise to the main plant body again. Main plant body by mitosis. By mitosis. Mitosis. Okay. Now, but the story is not over here. The story is not over here. Because in the case of your algae, what exactly happens is, in the case of your algae, this zygote directly develops into the spores. In the case of your algae, the zygote directly develops in the spore, and this stage, sporophyte stage, is usually not found. The sporophyte stage is usually not found at all. Not found at all. So, if the spore formation is not happening here, then where does the meiosis takes place? The spore formation happens, students. Very important point. Very, very important point. It has been a PYQ multiple times. It has been asked. This zygote right here. Meiosis takes place. Meiosis takes place. Meiosis takes place inside the zygote. Inside the zygote. And can I call it zygotic meiosis? Can I call it as zygotic meiosis? Zygotic meiosis. Zygotic meiosis happens here. Zygotic meiosis takes place here. Zygotic meiosis. Zygotic meiosis takes place here. So, where does the spore formation takes place? The spore formation is taking place inside the zygote. These spores right here are produced inside the zygote itself as a result of what? As a result of meiosis. Meiosis. As a result of meiosis. Tell me, beautiful? Tell me, beautiful? Yes, sir. So understand, I will repeat again one more time. The main plant body is called as gametophyte, haploid, independent, undergoes mitosis to produce the gametes. Gametophyte producing gametes, haploid, mitosis. These haploid gametes undergo fertilization to produce a zygote, and this zygote is diploid. So meiosis takes place inside the zygote, and that is called as zygotic meiosis. And as a result of zygotic meiosis, we end up getting the spores. And spores are haploid because of meiosis. And these spores undergo mitosis again to produce the main plant body. That is called as zygotic meiosis, entire life cycle of an algae. Done students? All of you understood? Quickly, green hearts in the chat if you understood the life cycle of an algae. All of you. If you understood the life cycle of an algae, green hearts in the chat, all of you. Green hearts in the chat. Done? Yes. Now students, with that, I have a simple question. Very simple question. The question says that if algae were all aquatic, mostly they were all aquatic. Were they happy? Yes, they were happy. Did they have nutrition? Yes, they had nutrition. Then I'll ask all of you a simple question. If algae were all aquatic, they had everything to successfully survive. But why did the plants move to the land when they evolved? Because all of us know it's algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms. That is the entire flow. So the question is very simple. If the algae had everything in its life, why did it evolve into the land? What was the necessity for move towards the land? Why not just stay happily in the aquatic conditions? Very simple question, very valid question. They were happy in the aquatic conditions. What was the need for the movement? Why? All of you, quickly ask me. Answer. The answer is very simple, students. The algae wanted more nutrition because your aquatic habitat has very less nutrition, right? It has very less nutrition, very less nutrition in the case of water. So what did they do? They shifted to the land, they moved towards the land. Why? Because the land has more nutrition. And students, understand, if this is water body, if some algae is in the bottom here, will it get proper sunlight? No. If it is in the depths of ocean, it does not even get light. So very smart. Packing is done. Nice suitcase, they took the trolley and nicely they moved towards the land. Now students, tell me, whenever you try to shift somewhere else, for example, you are in your house right now and you go to your friend's house or anywhere, for example, you get a good college, you will try to move towards out of your house. Will you face some difficulties when you initially move, or will everything be happy ever after, or like everyone is like, come live with us, you're very happy here? No. For example, even if you go to abroad, there will be some cultural changes. You will be shocked. Oh my God, what is happening in this world? Similarly, when the algae came to the land, when the algae moved towards the land, it was very dangerous for them. They did not survive easily. Algae was not, very acclimatized or ready for the hot conditions of the earth. Obviously, it does not look like this. This is my dramatic I've shown you. It doesn't look like this earth back then, but it was not very welcoming. It was not very welcoming for the algae. So what did the algae do? If you are going to abroad, after some days, do you get used to the conditions? When you move out of your house, after some days, you get used to the food there. For example, you're going to North India or coming to Bangalore, you get used to the Bangalore food. Do you use some form of adaptations? Yes. So your algae also adapted. That is, then the plants got smarter and started to adapt. How did they adapt? First of all, they developed cuticle to make sure the water loss is reduced. Made cuticle to make sure the water loss is not there. Okay, cuticle done. Then sex organs. Sex organs were very exposed. So what did they do? They made a separate layer around the sex organs. They made sure the sex organs are wearing a jacket. That is called as a jacket layer on the sex organs. That is jacketed sex organs, right? And this jacketed sex organs and the cuticle, right? And all of these adaptations, minor adaptations, started to seen, and we ended up getting a new type of plant called as bryophyte. Bryo means moss. And phyta means plant. It is called as moss-like plant called as bryophyta, and they were the first land plants called as bryophyta or bryophytes. The first land or terrestrial plants. Okay, friends, all of you close your eyes quickly. All of you close your eyes. Every single one of you close your eyes and try to imagine a bryophyte. Tell me what comes to your mind. All of you, tell me quickly. All of you close your eyes and think of a bryophyte and tell me what comes to your mind, and I will change that perspective today. All of you, start. Close your eyes quickly. Now tell me, dent in your mind, did all of you just notice, did this come to your mind? A stupid Markantia which is given your NCERT, which doesn't even look remotely close to your actual Markantia. Does this come to your mind? You're like, yes sir, it comes to my mind. But when you try to imagine a liverwort, tell me what is coming to your mind. When you try to imagine a liverwort, tell me what is coming to your mind. Something very weird. Nothing is coming to your mind, right? Why? The reason nothing is coming to your mind or this stupid diagram is coming to your mind is because you have never truly looked at a bryophyte. And today I will show you what bryophytes actually look like. Ready, all of you? Ready? Understand. This is how the bryophytes look like. This is how the actual bryophytes look like. See here. This is a bryophyte. This is a bryophyte. You know, see here. This right here is a typical structure of a bryophyte. It has a gametophytic. This is the sporophytic plant body. Gametophytic. You are used to seeing the NCERT diagrams. All of you are used to seeing this stupid NCERT diagram which is given in your book. Probably something like this is given in your book, right? Something, I didn't even keep it. It was so sad looking. I don't think even I kept it in my slides. 1 second, let me show you. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? All of you in your mind, you got this structure in your mind. That is your basically your funaria, a moss. This came to your mind? Yes, this came to your mind. But in reality, how does it look like? How does the funaria look like? The funaria looks something like this. Can you see? This is the diagram which should come to your mind. This is the diagram which needs to come to your mind. This is the gametophyte. The below one is called as the gametophyte plant body. And from the gametophyte, can you see development of sporophyte? This is the sporophyte. Sporophytic plant body. This right here is the prostate marcantia. A marcantia having the gemmacups. Marcantia having the gemmacups. Students, this is what you lack. You remember just NCERT diagram and you can't really imagine it. For example, I'll show you more diagrams. See this. I'll show you more diagrams. This is your marcantia. Look at this marcantia. All the gemmacups. All the gemmacups in your marcantia. Look at this. This is your polytrichum. Looks like a flamingo. This is your funaria. Polytrichum, sphagnum. Tell me which is your favorite. Tell me which is your favorite in all of three. Tell me which one is your favorite. Mine is sphagnum is my favorite actually because I will show you the other structure of sphagnum. But this polytrichum also looks nice. In this polytrichum right here, this green color part which is independent. You learn that in life cycle later on. This green color part is independent. This right here is the gametophyte. Gametophyte. Don't buy heart all this. Understand. Green color, independent bryophyte. On the gametophyte, sporophyte is on the gametophyte and it is dependent. This right here is the sporophyte. Sporophyte. Good. Done? Done all of you? So this is how you should learn plant kingdom, students. Not just what is given in NCERT. So okay, look at this. Tell me, which one is your favorite moss? See, sphagnum, funaria, polytrichum. Polytrichum, sphagnum is my favorite actually. Polytrichum also looks good. Here, mosses. See this. This is the liverworts. Beautiful liverworts. Looks like an umbrella, right? Looks like an island, small islands. This is your typical structure of a liverwort. Can you see marcantia? This is the entire plant body, thallus, gemmacup. What is this? Archegonia and Archegonia 4. This is how the actual structure looks like of a liverwort. Now, after seeing this liverwort, try to imagine what is given in NCERT now, students. This is what is given your NCERT for liverwort. Where is the liverwort given your NCERT? After looking at this is the actual marcantia, students. Actual marcantia, Archegonia 4, Archegonia. See here. This is what is given your NCERT. See this. Marcantia male thallus, Marcantia female thallus. Okay. Marcantia male thallus, Marcantia female thallus. Now students, tell me, do you have a clear understanding of the structure now? Kirti, I will check, don't worry, I'll check later on. Okay. Clear? This is how the structure should come to your mind. When you think of a marcantia, the diagram which has prostate, gemma, sex organ coming out, come to your mind. Okay. See here. Can you see a root-like structure now called as rhizoids are there? Structures are coming. Now students, understand the 6 organs now. Understand the 6 organs now. Understand the 6 organs. Can we start? Can we start? 1 second, students. Okay. Now we'll learn about the structure of the sex organs here. Can we start? Can you start, students? Yes. Understand, beautiful. You will understand now. Now there is something called as difference between what is the meaning of antheridia and antheridiaphore. What is the difference between archegonia and archegoniophore? What is the difference between that? Right? What is the difference between antheridia, antheridiaphore, archegonia and archegoniophore? What is the difference between all of that? Okay. Can we start, students? Can we start now? Yes or no? No. Let's start about your gametophyte of the bryophytes. Okay. Sex organ. So you need to understand here the difference first of all. The male sex organ is called as antheridia. Antheridia is the male sex organ. This is called as antheridia. Now, a female sex organ is called as archegonia. This is the archegonia, cup-shaped structure. Cup-shaped structure is called as archegonia. Antheridia is basically this. Can you see this? This is antheridia. Then what is antheridiaphore and archegoniophore then? What is the phore? Understand. See here. Can you see this entire stalk? Entire stalk is called as the antheridiaphore. And entire stalk is called as archegoniophore. That is, the stalk is called as phore and the organ is called as antheridia and archegonia. Okay. The sex organs are multicellular, arise on a stalk. Here, students. This is the antheridium, the male sex organ, antheridium. This is the male gametophyte, the plant body. The plant body will have something called as the antheridia. This is sex organ here. Okay. This is antheridium, each one of them, each of the sex organ here. And inside the antheridium, we will have the androcyte mother cell. And this androcyte mother cell will undergo mitosis to produce the gametes. Biflagellated anthrozoids. This antheridium mother cell will undergo mitosis and produce biflagellated anthrozoids. Clear all of you? Biflagellated anthrozoids. Okay. Now understand difference. Where is it? See here. Male gametophytic plant body, antheridia, and biflagellated anthrozoids are coming from the antheridia, the sex organ. Like in the case of male, in the case of humans, we have the penis. Penis produces the sperm. From testis, sperm is coming. Here also, this is the organ. Antheridia is the organ, sex organ. From sex organ, we have the biflagellated anthrozoids. They are the gametes. Antheridia is the sex organ. Understood all of the difference? Difference you understood, all of you? Understood difference? Yes. Okay. So antheridia, anthrozoids. Now, similarly, we have archegonia. Flask-shaped structure. It is a flask-shaped structure. Flask-shaped structure is the archegonia. And here we have the egg. That is the gamete, egg cell. One single egg cell. That is going to be the gamete here. So this is archegonia and the gamete. Archegonia is the sex organ here. Produced on the female gametophyte. Okay. Now, this is your archegonium. Structure of archegonium. Here in the egg cell, the gamete, archegonium single. Okay. Now what happens? Can you see this, students? This is your archegonia. Can you see the stalk? This stalk is called as what? Archegoniophore. The stalk is called as archegoniophore and this is called as archegonia. Difference. Similarly, we have antheridia is a sex organ. The stalk is called as antheridiaphore and the gamete is called as anthrozoids. Three difference. Similarly, in the case of your flower, the flower stalk is called as what? Pedicel is the stalk of the flower. Gynoecium is a sex organ. Inside the ovary, we have the ovules. Similarly, here we have the archegonia is sex organ. Stalk is called as archegoniophore, and inside the archegonia we have the egg cell. I hope you're able to connect all 4 of the dots or 3 dots. Okay, and zygote formation happens. Zygote formation happens on the archegonia. On the archegonia. Okay, zygote formation happens on the archegonia. Archegoniophore is a stalk. See here, and this I will come back to this later on. The embryo will develop into sporophyte. Embryo which is diploid here will develop into sporophyte, which also is diploid. We'll come back to this later on, don't worry. Okay, see this. So what do we have here, students? We have antheridium, antheridiophore, archegonium, archegoniophore. From here, what do we get? From here we get biflagellated anthrozoids. From archegonium we get the egg and the spores, they fuse together, and what do we get? We get the zygote. And remember, students, remember always, the biflagellated anthrozoids will swim in water. They'll swim in water and they will reach the archegonia. And that is where the fertilization takes place. Fertilization takes place here. And that is why zygote formation happens on the archegonium or archegonia. Clear? Understanding, all of you? Understanding? Zygote formation happens on the archegonia. Why? Because the zygospores, biflagellated zoospores, they're swimming and coming. Okay? And anthrozoids, biflagellated anthrozoids. Clear, all of you? Here we have the main plant body, gametophytic, independent, green color. On the gametophyte we have the sporophyte. Sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte here. This is diploid, this is haploid. Sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte. Beautiful. So see here, all of you read the NCERT now. The plant body of bryophyte is more differentiated. It is much more differentiated than the algae. It is thallus-like and prostrate or erect. It can be prostrate or erect. Prostrate means flat. And attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoids. They can be rhizoids, which help in attachment. Okay. They lack true root, stem or leaves. So can I call it them also thalloid in nature? Yes, they are also thalloid in nature. They may possess root-like, leaf-like or stem-like structures. The main plant body of bryophyte is haploid. See, I told you, main plant body is haploid and it is called as gametophyte. Main plant body is called as what? Gametophyte is the main plant body, independent. The sex organs in bryophyte are multicellular. The male sex organ is called as antheridium. And antheridium will produce what? Antheridium will produce the anthrozoids. The female sex organ is called as archegonium. And the archegonium will produce what? Archegonium will produce the single egg cell. Clear, all of you? Now, the anthrozoids are released into the water where they come in contact with the archegonium. See, biflagellated anthrozoids are produced in water. They'll swim in water and go and reach the archegonium. Okay, that is why, since they require land, they require water for fertilization. Can I call them amphibians of plant kingdom? Yes, amphibians of plant kingdom. Okay, the anthrozoids are released in water where they come in contact with the archegonium. The anthrozoids fuse with the egg to produce the zygote. Now, the zygote do not undergo reduction division immediately. They produce what? They produce the sporophyte. So the zygote is producing what? Zygote is producing sporophyte. Okay. The sporophyte is not free living but attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte. See, we learned here. The sporophyte is not free. The sporophyte is not free living The sporophyte is attached to the gametophyte. Attached to the gametophyte. Okay, attached to the gametophyte. Some cells of the sporophyte undergoes reduction division meiosis to produce the haploid spores. These spores germinate to produce the gametophyte. Friends, this I will teach you in life cycle, don't worry. Okay. Economic importance, I'll tell you later on. I think we missed one paragraph in the starting. The bryophytes include various mosses and liverworts. They have mosses and liverworts that are found commonly growing in moist, shady areas. Bryophytes are called as amphibians of plant kingdom, I told you already. Why? Because these plants can live in soil, but are dependent on water for what? They are dependent on water for fertilization. For fertilization, you need water. Okay. They usually occur in damp, humid and shady localities. They play an important role in plant succession on bare rock. Basically, succession. Now I'll show you the NCERT diagram, students. NCERT diagram. See, this is sporophyte, I told you. The sporophyte is present on the gametophyte. Sporophyte is present on the gametophyte. Here also you can see here, all of you. This is the sporophyte. Sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte. And sporophyte right here. This sporophyte right here is diploid. It is diploid in shape. Sporophyte is diploid. And sporophyte produces what? Sporophyte will produce the spores. It will produce the spores later on. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Now, classification. Students, classification, understand. We have something called as mosses, liverworts and hornworts. Hornworts is not given your NCERT. Not given your NCERT. The only two things which is given your NCERT is mosses and liverworts. Mosses and liverworts. First we will do liverworts, students. First we will do liverworts. Okay, see here. This is how liverworts looks like. This is a typical liverwort. Can you see? Liverwort. Example, basic example is Markantia. This is your mosses. Mosses have the gametophytic plant body, sporophytic plant body on the top. Sporophytic plant body on the top, gametophytic plant body on the bottom. Done? Mosses and liverworts. This is your liverwort, students. This is a liverwort. Okay. This right here is your beautiful liverwort. Students, if this is right here, this is archegonium. Archegonia or archegonium. What do you call this? What do you call this, students? Can we call this structure here archegoniophore? Yes, we can call this structure archegoniophore that time. Archegoniophore. This is archegonium. Liverworts. Here. You might have seen this in the drainage. When the drainage is there, you can see all this leaf-like structure growing everywhere. Markantia. Okay. Now understand the lines of NCERT, students. I will teach you one by one. Understand. Okay. The thallus is undifferentiated. Means what? You cannot differentiate between root, shoot and leaf. There is no true root, there is no true stem, no true leaf here. No true leaf. Thallus is dorsiventral and dichotomously branched here. That is, the thallus is dorsiventrally flat. For example, students, this is the soil right here. The main plant body, the Markantia type, it is closely suppressed to the soil. It is growing closely suppressed to the soil. See, the thallus is dorsiventrally and closely oppressed to the substratum. The soil is the substratum and it is completely prostrate, flat and oppressed to the soil. If this is the soil right here, it is growing completely opposite to the soil. Okay. The leafy members have tiny leaf-like appendages. So, for example, a leafy member will have something called as, students, a leafy member will have two rows of leaf arrangement. Can you see here? A leafy member will look like something like this. This is a leafy member. This is a leafy member right here. Can you see? So the leafy members have a tiny leaf-like appendage, tiny leaf-like appendages in two rows on the stem-like structure. So this is the stem-like structure here, stem-like structure right here, and two rows, row 1, row 2, two rows of leafy structure on a stem-like structure. Understood? The rhizoids are unicellular, the most important point here. In the case of liverworts, rhizoids are unicellular. So we can have see rhizoids here. We can see some rhizoids here. Rhizoids are unicellular rhizoids. Unicellular rhizoids. Point is clear? Point is clear to all of you? Unicellular rhizoids. That is your liverworts. That is your liverworts. See here, the thallus is undifferentiated and a stem-like structure, leaf-like structure. Rhizoids are unicellular. Now, what reproduction? Reproduction is which fragmentation, gemme formation, sexual is oogamy, similar to oogamy type. Now, what is gemme? What is gemme, students? You can see on the main thallus plant body, the flat structure, you can see some cup-shaped structure. Can you see? This is called as gemme cup. And inside the gemme cup, we have gemme bud. Inside the gemme cup, there are bud here. Gemme bud can be seen inside the gemme cup. Gemme bud. Okay, gemme bud can be seen inside gemme cup. Okay. And what is gemme cup? Green color, obviously, multicellular structure and has bud called as gemme. Bud called as gemme inside. Can you see? Inside there will be buds here. Buds here. And this gemme will develop into new plant. Gemme will develop into new plant. See here. This is the entire structure. Flat structure, gemme cup, archegonia for sexual reproduction, archegonia 4. Similarly, there will be one more thallus. One more thallus will have what? Antheridia 4 and antheridia. Antheridia will produce bioflagellate anthrozoids. Anthrozoids will swim and come and land here, and there will be zygote formation here. Zygote formation happening here. I hope the entire story is running in your mind. Okay, entire story is running in your mind. Okay. Now, liverworts. See, this is antheridia 4 and archegonia 4. 4 is a stalk. Okay. Most liverworts are dioecious. Now, what is the meaning of die, students? What is the meaning of die? Die means two. Die means two. Yes, die means two. So, if the sex organs, male sex organ and female sex organs are present in two different thalli, that is called as dioecious. Here. Male and female sex organs are found in different thalli. So we have separate male thalli, we have separate female thalli. Male thalli will have antheridia 4 and antheridia. Female thalli will have archegonia 4 and archegonium, and it will produce the egg cell here, egg cell. Antheridia 4 will have antheridia and will produce biflagellated anthrozoids. From here. Two different thalli, dioecious. Die means two. The sex organs are present on two different separate thalli. Male thalli, female thalli. Clear? Now students, we come to mosses now. This is your typical moss. A typical moss will have gametophyte and sporophyte on top. That is a typical moss here. Examples: Funaria, Sphagnum, Polytrichum. Mosses, three different mosses. Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum. Can you see the sporophyte? Yes, you can see the sporophyte. Can you see the gametophyte? Yes, we can see the gametophyte. Gametophyte is haploid, sporophyte is diploid. Sporophyte is growing on the gametophyte. Here. See, something like this. Can all of you see this? This right here is your gametophyte on the bottom, which is haploid. On top of the gametophyte, we have the sporophyte coming off. And sporophyte has something called as foot, seta, and capsule. There are three different parts of the sporophyte. Three different parts of the sporophyte. Exactly, island. Understood, all of you? Understood? Yes, sir. Now, sporophyte or the main plant body forms the spore. Okay, spore formation happens. Now, students, understand this point here. The spores germinate to form a juvenile stage. See, in the case of your liverworts, spores were giving directly, it was developing into a main plant body. I told you, zygote formation, zygote is giving you sporophyte, sporophyte is developing into a new plant body, right? It's from zygote, from the spores. Okay, from spores, new plant body was developing. But in the case of mosses, the spores germinate to form a juvenile stage. So there's an intermediate stage here. We have a intermediate stage called as your juvenile stage. When you do the cycle, you will learn again. Okay. So spores germinate into a juvenile stage, that is called as protonema stage. So spores are developing into protonema. Okay, protonema. Protonema development. And this protonema later develops into the main plant body. Okay, main plant body. Okay. Now I'll show you. In diagram will now see this. In the case of your liverworts, the rhizoids were unicellular. All of you remember. But here in the case of mosses, rhizoids are multicellular root-like structure. Okay. Reproduction is very simple again. Fragmentation, gemme and oogamy. Okay, oogamy. Okay. Now here understand. In the case of your liverworts, they were dioecious. Meaning was what? The male and female sex organs were present on two different plants. But in the case of your mosses, they are monoecious. What is the meaning of monoecious? Mono means one. If both the sex organs are present on one plant, that is called as monoecious. That is, male sex organ and female sex organs, antheridia, archegonia, are present on same plant, that is called as monoecious. Same plant. Mono means one. Okay. Now students, I will draw the life cycle. That will give you better clarity on the entire structure. Then we will read the NCERT lines. You're like, wow, everything understood. Start. Can we start, students? Yes or no? No. First, we'll start with liverworts. Students. Now, tell me, students, since they are dioecious, do we have separate male gametophyte and female gametophyte? Right. Two different sex organs are present on two different thalli. So, can I write? We have a female thalli. Here called as female gametophyte. Female gametophyte. Gametophyte is haploid. Can I write male gametophyte? So we have a male gametophyte, also haploid. This is gametophyte. Okay. Now tell me, students, on the female gametophyte, do we get archegonia or do we get antheridia? Tell me. On the female gametophyte, obviously I will get archegonia, the flask shaped structure. Archegonia. Yes, I get archegonia or archegonium. Yes, I get archegonium. On the male, what do we get? On the case of male, do we get antheridia or antheridium? Antheridium. Okay. Now, the antheridia or archegonia, they are the sex organs. Right. This antheridia right here, will produce. Tell me, students, this antheridia will produce biflagellated anthrozoids. Biflagellated anthrozoids. Yes. Now, students, these biflagellated anthrozoids, will they swim in water? Will they swim in water and reach the archegonia? Yes. They will swim in water. Here we have water. Now, what does archegonia produce? Archegonia will produce a single egg cell. Single egg cell here. Single egg cell. Here the egg cell here. Single egg cell is present here. Okay. Single egg cell. Now, what will happen? Fertilization takes place. Fertilization takes place. Fertilization takes place right now. When the fertilization takes place, what do we get, students? This is the female gametophyte. This is the female gametophyte. Female gametophyte. Archegonia. And within the archegonia, right now we have the diploid zygote, which is diploid. Female gametophyte is haploid. Yes or no? Yes, sir. Now, students, understand. Now, this zygote right here undergoes mitosis. This zygote right here undergoes mitosis to produce a multicellular structure called as sporophyte. Undergoes mitosis to produce. This is the female gametophyte. Understand the cycle, students. This is the female gametophyte, which is haploid, and here we have the archegonia, and on this archegonia, the zygote will develop into a multicellular structure called as sporophyte. Right here. A sporophyte. It will develop into a sporophyte, and this sporophyte will have different parts. This is called as the foot, called as seta, and this is called as capsule. Foot, seta, and capsule. Now, understand, students. Understand. Now, what happens is inside the capsule. What happens? Inside the capsule, meiosis takes place now. Now, you tell me, students, a gametophyte is producing gametes. A sporophyte will produce what? This is sporophyte, right? This right here is a sporophyte. This is the sporophyte. Which is diploid. Why diploid? Because zygote, diploid, mitosis, diploid. Sporophyte is right here. Okay. Now, this sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte because it doesn't have chlorophyll. Now, what happens is inside the capsule. Let's draw that again. This is the female gametophyte. This is the female gametophyte, which is haploid. Yes. And here on the archegonium, what do we have? We have the diploid sporophyte. Now, on this sporophyte, what is happening? In the sporophyte, meiosis is taking place. Meiosis is taking place. So let me write it here, students. Meiosis inside the meiosis inside the capsule. Meiosis inside the capsule. Now, if meiosis is happening inside the capsule, it will end up producing the spores. Now tell me, if meiosis is taking place, if meiosis is happening here, tell me what is the ploidy of the spores? The ploidy of the spores is, right now, all of these spores are haploid in nature now. All of these spores are haploid in nature. Spores are haploid in nature. Can you see? Spores are haploid in nature. All the spores. Why? Because of the meiosis. Because of meiosis, all the spores are haploid in nature. Yes, haploid in nature. Because this sporophyte was diploid. And because meiosis is happening inside the capsule, the spores are produced. All the spores are going to be haploid in nature. Now students, understand. Beautiful concept. Now we are connecting it. These spores right here can develop into the female gametophyte. These spores right here can develop into the male gametophyte, haploid to haploid, as a result of simple mitosis. That is the complete life cycle of the liverwort dioecious condition. All of you understand what exactly happened here? First of all, I'll recap again. Recap all of you. Male gametophyte, female gametophyte. Two different thalli, dioecious condition. Done. Male gametophyte is producing antheridia, male sex organ. The female gametophyte is producing the female sex organ. That is archegonia, or archegonium is the female sex organ. Female sex organ is producing the female gamete, that is egg cell. Male sex organ is producing biflagellated anthrozoids. These biflagellated anthrozoids will swim in water. That's why we call them amphibians of plant kingdom. They'll nicely swim in water and reach the archegonia and end up undergoing fertilization. When they undergo fertilization, they produce a zygote. And this zygote immediately does not undergo spore formation. It does not produce the spores directly. This zygote right here undergoes mitosis to produce the sporophyte, diploid sporophyte. Diploid mitosis. And this sporophyte is born where? The sporophyte is born on top of the gametophyte. Did we see that somewhere? Here. In the case of liverworts, also on the main plant body, we have the development. Can you see? Development is happening. Archegonia. On this one, sporophyte will develop later on. So liverworts also. In the case of liverworts also. Okay. Now, after what happens? Once there is a sporophyte formation which is diploid in nature, this sporophyte inside the capsule region, what happens? Meiosis inside the capsule. If meiosis is happening, sporophyte will produce what? Spores. Spores will undergo mitosis to produce a female gametophyte or a male gametophyte. Any one of them is possible. Right now. Female gametophyte or male gametophyte. Any one is possible right now. Okay? Any one of them is possible. Clear, all of you? Clear. Now students, what happens in the case of monoecious condition then? What exactly happens in the case of monoecious condition? Understand again, very simple, very easy to understand. Ready? Now, in the case of monoecious condition, what is happening? Understand. that is mosses. In the case of mosses. In the case of mosses, what is happening? Okay, what is happening in the case of mosses? Now you know mosses is called as monoecious, meaning is that mono means one. Mono means one, that is both the sex organs. Both the sex organs are present in one thalli. One thalli. So let's draw one thalli here, students. Let's draw one thalli. Let's draw the one thalli. One single thalli is here. One single thalli is right here. Okay. One single thalli is right here. On this single thalli, we can see some form of branching. We can see some form of branching also. We can see some form of branching. Single thalli. This right here is the gametophyte. There is no separate female or male gametophyte here. Okay. There is just one gametophyte because it is monoecious. Gametophyte. And this gametophyte is haploid. Gametophyte is haploid. This is the main plant body. Main plant body. Okay. Multicellular and branched. It is multicellular and branched. Okay. Multicellular and branched. Now on this thalli, students, on this thalli right here, on this thalli right here, we can see the development of sex organs. On one thalli only, we can see the development of sex organs. For example, on this thalli, we can see the development of antheridia and archegonia or archegonium. Archegonium. So what do we have here, students? We have here an antheridium and archegonium. Archegonium. Okay. Now students, tell me, this antheridia will produce what? This antheridia will produce biflagellated anthrozoids. Biflagellated anthrozoids. Done. Biflagellated anthrozoids are produced. Now these biflagellated anthrozoids, will they swim in water? Yes, sir. They will swim in water. They will swim in water. Water we have here. They will swim in water and then they will reach. They will swim in water and then they will reach the axil. They will reach the axil. Now once they reach the axil, what happens? Fertilization takes place. Fertilization takes place. What is happening? Fertilization. Fertilization is taking place. If fertilization is taking place, what do we get, students? Again, we have the main thalli. This is the male gametophyte. This is the male gametophyte, yes. This is the gametophyte. This is the gametophyte. Gametophyte, which is haploid. Here we have antheridia. Here we have archegonia. But since fertilization has happened now, we find the diploid zygote here. Zygote, which is diploid in nature. Similarly, how we did here. Students, fertilization, zygote formation. Now this zygote will undergo mitosis to produce the sporophyte again. Same thing. Same thing is happening again. Same thing is happening again. This zygote will undergo mitosis. This zygote will undergo mitosis. Zygote will undergo mitosis to produce the. This is the main plant body. Here we have the archegonia, and from this archegonia, students, from this archegonia, we can see the development of the sporophyte. Sporophyte is coming here. Sporophyte. Now this sporophyte has again three parts. We have the foot. Sorry, we have the foot. we have the foot, seta, and capsule. Again, in previously what we learned? Previously we learned that students. Previously we learned that this particular sporophyte, what happens in the capsule? Inside the capsule there is meiosis. Inside the capsule meiosis and produce the sperm. So produce the spores. Same thing is happening here. This is the sporophyte, right? This is the sporophyte right here. Sporophyte which is diploid. Why diploid? Because mitosis, zygote is diploid, sporophyte also will be diploid. Now what is happening? Meiosis is happening. Meiosis is happening inside the capsule. Meiosis is happening inside the capsule. So what do we end up getting? We end up getting the spores. We end up getting the spores right here. Now students, tell me, till now it is almost the same. Till now it is almost the same as the previous one. Here also we have spores. Spores which are haploid now. Why? Because of meiosis inside the capsule. Because of meiosis inside the capsule. Meiosis inside the capsule. Meiosis inside the capsule. We have the spores. Till here, isn't it same to same again? Tell me. All of you tell me. Dhanush, try to learn with the help of diagrams and relating. Don't by heart any of this. Till now here it is same to same. Meiosis is happening inside the capsule and spore formation. Now what happened in the case of your liverworts? The spores directly developed into the gametophyte. Right? Gametophyte. Now, in the case of mosses, didn't we learn the spores will develop? A spore will develop into a structure which is free living, filamentous, creeping, branched structure called as protonema stage. This particular spore will develop into a structure called as, which is green color, called as protonema. Protonema stage. Protonema stage, friends. Protonema. And this protonema is always, again, see students, here we have mitosis happening here. Mitosis. Tell me, the protonema will be haploid or diploid then? Will it be haploid or diploid? It will be obviously haploid. How it was haploid here? Haploid, same thing. Mitosis. Now, this protonema right here, students, this protonema right here, tell me, is it green color? Yes, green color. So, can I call it free living? Free living. Is it filamentous? It is filamentous. It is free living, filamentous. It is creeping also, a little bit of creeping. And this protonema, students, is always branched also. Protonema is always branched and also branched. This is for a protonema. Okay, protonema. Now this protonema, students, right here, it will produce some form of buds called as lateral buds. This is protonema right here. This protonema will produce buds. Called as lateral buds. And these lateral buds, students, will develop into the multicellular gametophyte as a result of, again, mitosis, because there is no change in ploidy. As a result of mitosis. Because protonema is also haploid. This also is a haploid structure. That is the entire life cycle again. Entire life cycle, students. Same thing what we learned here. The same thing what we learned here. The only difference here is, first of all, this is dioecious, male gametophyte, female gametophyte. But in the case of your mosses, we only have one gametophyte. That is monoecious condition. Both sex organs are present on same gametophyte. Antheridia, Archegonia. Again, same thing is happening here. But here, the spores are developing into a protonema. In the case of your liverwort, the spores are directly converted. The spores are directly converted to male gametophyte, female gametophyte in liverwort. But here, spores are developing into a protonema stage. This protonema stage is a juvenile stage which produces lateral buds and they end up getting the male entire gametophyte. Students, all of you understanding? This is the beauty of the life cycle. This is what I was teaching you here. Let's go back here. In the case of mosses, did we learn here? Sporophyte of the main. Not a main plant body. Gametophyte is a main plant body. The spores germinate to form a juvenile gametophytic stage called as protonema. Protonema develops into the adult foliage, right? Protonema develops into adult foliage here. See here. Protonema develop into the adult foliage. Protonema, right? Foliage rises the multicellular, leaves are arranged. This is the protonema stage. Juvenile gametophyte. This will develop into the main form. Okay. Juvenile protonema to the main plant. Buds develop on the protonema called as lateral buds, which grow into the foliage form. Foliage means leaf-like structure. Right here. Lateral buds into the main plant body. Understood, all of you? This is the beauty of the life cycle, and this takes a lot of effort. See, I'll show you NCERT now. I will show you NCERT. You will be like, what easy is given, sir? See here, students, see here. In NCERT, what is it given in NCERT, all of you? Bryophytes in generally are little economic. That is gone. Let's see from here. See here, students. Archegonia is flask shaped. Did we do that? Archegonia is flask shaped, right? Single leg. Anthrozoids are released into the water where they come in contact with the archegonia, and anthrozoids fuse with the egg cell to produce a zygote. Zygote do not undergo reduction division immediately. They will produce a multicellular body called a sporophyte. We learned that a zygote will develop into a multicellular structure called as a sporophyte. Now, the sporophyte is not free living, but it is attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte. Did we learn that, students? We learned that in the archegonium, we have the entire sporophyte attached to the gametophyte. It is attached to the gametophyte. This was attached to the gametophyte. Sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte. Yes. Derives nutrition from it. Some cells of the sporophyte undergoes reduction division, meiosis, to produce the haploid spores eventually, and the spores germinate to form the gametophyte later on. We learned that only here. It's here. It will produce the spores. Spores develop into the gametophyte. Here, students. Liverworts grow usually in moist, shady habitat such as banks of streams, marshy grounds, damp soil, barks of trees, and deep in the woods. The plant body of liverwort is thalloid. Example, Markantia. The island structure we saw, no? The island structure, that is Markantia. Okay. The thallus is dorsiventrally and closely appressed to the substratum, very flat to the substratum, right? The leafy members have tiny leaf appendages in 2 rows of stem-like structure. We learned that. Asexual reproduction in liverwort takes place by fragmentation of the thalli or by the formation of specialized structure called as gemmae. Okay. Gemmae are green, multicellular, asexual buds. We learned that. Yes, we learned that also. Which develop into small receptacle called as gemmae cup, located on the thalli. The gemmae become detached from the parent body and germinate into a new individual. During sexual reproduction, male and female organs are produced either on the same or different thalli. The sporophyte differentiates into foot, seta and capsule. After meiosis, spores are produced within the capsule. Did we learn that? Spores are produced within the capsule and these spores germinate to form the free-living gametophyte. Spores will germinate into the free-living gametophyte. Okay. Now, this is your antheriophore. See here, students. They are marking the antheriophore. This is the antheriophore. This is antheridium. Archegoniophore. This is archegonium. Archegonium is, it has something called as flask-shaped structure here. Okay. Now, mosses, you understand mosses. The predominant stage of life cycle of moss is the gametophyte. Main plant body is gametophyte, which has 2 stages. The first stage is called as protonema. Remember protonema stage? Protonema stage, independent stage, which develops directly from the spore. We learned that it develops from the spore. From the spore, it undergoes mitosis and produces protonema stage, which is creeping, green, branched and filamentous. Second stage is the leafy stage, which is the main plant body, which develops from the secondary protonema. So the gametophyte is developing from the protonema as a lateral bud. They consist of upright, slender axis bearing spirally arranged leaf. They are attached to the soil through the multicellular rhizoids, branched rhizoids. So in the case of mosses, we have multicellular rhizoids. In the case of your mosses, in the case of your liverworts, we have unicellular rhizoids. This stage bears sex organs. The vegetative reproduction in the mosses is by fragmentation and budding, and in the secondary protonema. Sexual reproduction, the sex organs, antheridia and archegonia produced at the apex of the leafy shoot. After fertilization, the zygote develops into a sporophyte. Zygote is converted to a sporophyte. Shoot the question, I'll answer. Into sporophyte, consisting of the foot, seta and capsule. The sporophyte in mosses is more elaborate. See, we learned that. Sporophyte in the case of mosses is much more elaborate because it has a lot of diffusing property. Spores will germinate, spores will go very far. Okay. The capsule contains the spores, we learned that. The spores are formed after the meiosis. Mosses have an elaborate mechanism for spore dispersal. Example is Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum. 3 different mosses we learned. Polytrichum, Funaria and Sphagnum. This is your gametophyte, sporophyte. Gametophyte is haploid, sporophyte is diploid. Right? This is your sphagnum, peat moss. Right. Where is the diagram? Economical importance, you see. Death and decaying of mosses led to the soil formation, economic importance. Prevent soil erosion by reducing the impact of falling rain. For example, they will make one nice layer. When they make a nice layer, how much more water falls? It will make sure that the top soil is not getting damaged because of the rainfall. Food is herbaceous plant and peat moss. All of you know the peat moss is used for packaging material. All of you. Okay. That is your liverworts and mosses. Okay, students. I think we'll stop it today here, students. I think we'll stop here only. I'll bring questions in the next part. I'll bring more questions in the next part. Okay. Next part will be on Tuesday, I believe. Tuesday. Okay. Or we'll do it on the Saturday itself. Or tomorrow. Okay, so any one of them will do, and or we can do it today only, but a little bit of tiredness is coming now, because if you do pteridophytes, gymnosperms, that will easily take for more 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours so it will take, or 2 hours, it will take 2 hours, I'm very sure it will take 2 hours. So it's already 9 o'clock, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, it will become 11 o'clock and I'll reach home by 1. So let's not do that, okay. Let's not do that. PYQs, I will make it in the next part. Next part we'll use all the PYQs, possible PYQs in the next part, okay students. So I think we'll stop that here today, and I'll give you the notes, don't worry. Notes will come to all of you. Download the notes, use the notes, and you can study directly from the notes itself. In the second part, we will do the remaining pteridophytes, gymnosperms, okay, and we'll include a lot of questions in the second part. Clear, all of you? So with that, we'll stop the class today here. Thank you so much, students, and I will see you in the next class, all of you. Bye bye, all of you. Take care. Take care.